Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for May 10th through 16th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 6 shows, I listened to 1 podcast, and I listened to 1 book. It's been dreary on the West Coast, especially the last couple of days, so I'm sorry about this lighting. This is as best as the West Coast can do right now. First this week I finished Ghost Squad by Claribel Ortega. This is a middle grade novel about 2 girls that go on an adventure basically to save one of their families, and that includes their dead family. Our protagonist has a large Latinx extended family, but a lot of the people that live in her house are actually ghosts. Sometimes they take the form of fireflies, and sometimes they will just be talking to her and just seem kind of translucent. They're all tied to this tree in the yard of the house where she lives with her dad, and unfortunately he's having financial troubles, especially since her mom left, and they might have to give up the house, which means they might have to give up the tree. Additionally, something's wrong in the neighborhood and something's going a little bit weird with the ghosts, so her and her best friend, with the help of her best friend's grandmother, who is also a witch, kind of try to figure out what's going on in their town. This was adventurous and adorable and a pretty solid middle grade read. Next I read the debut novel The Boy in the Red Dress by Kristin Lambert. This is a queer speakeasy murder mystery, and honestly if you don't want to read it based on that sentence alone, I don't know what's wrong with you. Our main character Millie is bisexual and working in the speakeasy of her aunt, who is a lesbian. Her best friend is the club drag queen, and on New Year's Eve of 1929 someone comes in looking for her best friend. She's not about to rat her best friend out to this random stranger, but by the end of the evening someone is dead and they're trying to pin it on her best friend. From there we have a deliciously twisty mystery that Millie is trying to solve to make sure that her best friend doesn't go to jail. This was wonderful. Last week I actually attended a live interview with this author who talked about how she had changed who the murderer was several times in the course of reading this, and that made it really hard to pin it down on who it was. Even when I thought I knew who it was misdirection, and it was great. If you're a fan of historical fiction set in the Prohibition era, if you're a fan of queer books, if you're a fan of drag queens, I highly recommend this. On to the shows I watch. I'm currently rewatching the 2nd season of Scandal, and all of these characters are coming into it that I knew would come eventually, because again, it's a rewatch for me and it's a watch for the first time for my roommate. And I just got really excited because I forgot exactly when people were introduced, and it's really cool to see this whole other huge thing just coming into the plot line. I'm really enjoying that. I also watched a couple of episodes of the 3rd season of RuPaul's Drag Race because again, who doesn't need drag in their lives? In addition to that, I found out that the cast of Canada's Drag Race, which is premiering in July, it's having its very first season, includes somebody I know, so I'm already on a certain team before I even watched the show. The roommate that I haven't lived with for 2 months and I also started watching the 2nd season of Luke Cage because we finished Better Call Saul season 4 and there is no more of it on Netflix. We were kind of lukewarm about this. I really just said lukewarm. Wow, that was unintentional. We remember really enjoying the 1st season, and then of course there was no 2nd season at that point. We're just getting around to doing it now, and we're kind of about it. We're gonna keep watching it at least for another episode or so, but it's not giving us the same excitement feelings that we remember from the 1st season. I also watched the finale of the 40th season of Survivor. This was an interesting finale show because of the current times. Obviously they couldn't have a big live show in Los Angeles, which they usually do, so Probst was sitting in his garage in a set that was shipped to him and he had to build in his garage. They had cameras set up in the homes of the final 3, so we got to see their reactions from their own homes with their families. And although I was very, very happy about who made it back from extinction, I was very, very sad at how it all played out. I would have liked a different winner. However, this person definitely deserved their win. Something that's been playing in the background for actually weeks now, and I haven't really mentioned it because I haven't really been watching it, is The Simpsons. Chad got Disney Plus, so he's basically always watching The Simpsons when he's not teaching himself German on Duolingo. We actually sat down and watched a bunch of episodes from the 10th and 11th seasons, and it's interesting how many things I still remember from this show, even though I haven't consciously sat down to watch it in like a decade. On Saturday, my plan had been to sit down and read and see if I could finish the books I'm working on before this week, because I'm hosting the Plug and Readathon this week. That didn't happen because I sat down to read, got distracted by my computer being annoying, and then watched 2 seasons of Broadchurch, season 2 and season 3. Season 2 was a rewatch for me. I had seen it before, but it had been a while, so I forgot A lot of the secondary plot, I remembered how the first case from the first season ended up, but I had forgotten about the case that kind of came in for this season and was kind of the B plot. And then season 3 I hadn't seen at all because it wasn't available when I first watched Broadchurch, and also the second season of Broadchurch just is very conclusive. And the third season is very different. We're not talking about the murder of children anymore, we're talking about a rape. So if you don't want to watch an entire season of trying to figure out who raped a woman, this is not the season for you. However, just like all of the rest of Broadchurch, it is very compelling. There are lots of red herrings, there are a lot of suspects, there's just a lot, and I really enjoyed the performance. I love anything where I can watch David Tennant actually be Scottish. The podcast I listened to this week was a couple more episodes of Our Plague Year. This is a show put on by Joseph Fink talking about the state of the world. People either write essays for the show or people call into the show with stories about how things are going. I was initially very sad that I got very behind on this, but I'm happy that I caught up last week and this week because I really do like this project. I'm just finding it hard to finish audiobooks in a week because I don't go out of the house, and that's when I usually listen to audiobooks. So it takes a very big effort to not only listen to my audiobook for the week, but also to listen to a podcast. Speaking of audiobooks, the one I listened to this week was the adaptation of the graphic novel Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. I haven't actually read the graphic novel. I've seen it at the library a million times and just didn't have the time to pick it up. But considering I listened to the full cast audiobook adaptation of the graphic novel Hey Kiddo and really enjoyed that, I figured I would enjoy the full cast adaptation of Nimona. I basically just love a full cast adaptation, let's not lie to ourselves. Nimona is a young girl that wants to be a sidekick to this bad guy, so she just shows up one day and is like, hey, I'm your new sidekick, and also, by the way, I'm a shapeshifter. This obviously comes in very handy when you're trying to pull off nefarious schemes. However, you come to learn that Blackheart isn't really a bad guy, isn't really that much of a villain, he's just a villain in society based on something that happened with his friend back when they were training together to be knights. And yeah, you don't need to know much more to go into this and just be delighted. I do eventually want to read the graphic novel because it was very fun to have these voices in my head and all of the sound effects that went with them, but I know I'm going to enjoy the art style as well just based on the cover, so why wouldn't I do both? That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want me to know that you are here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!